everyone. Welcome to our session. It's so good to see you all joining in person and online. Hope you're having a fantastic TechBBQ so far. My name is Özge Atipoğlu. I'm the Director of Initiative Development at Millennial Mental Wellbeing, or MMW in short.
And I'm Subhi Irshed. I'm the Founder and Executive Director at MMW.
So before we start, we actually would like to get to know you a little bit. And that was a slide. I thought it was not the peak, but we actually have a poll that we will be using throughout this presentation. And in order to access that poll, and hopefully it works, we have a QR code that you can scan and a short link that is bit.ly/TechBBQ21. So if you can, I can see people are setting it up, which is great. Hopefully it's going to work. Well, it will work. Even if it doesn't on slides, you'll still have accessibility to see them on your phones. Cool. I'm just going to narrate the question while happening. So our first question is basically for us to get to know you a little bit better, we want to know which generations are in the audience with us right now. So,
So, Özge, what's the expectation like? I can see.
Well, I'm already getting surprised because I thought we will have more millennials coming in. I mean, we have them in majority, but it's so interesting to see the Gen Xers actually.
We're so glad they're here.
Yeah,
we have some good messages.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Cool. Yes. No Gen Z, which is interesting.
Yes.
Good, because I had a side part today, not a middle one. So if you guys know, you know. Anyways. Oh, perfect. We have a Gen Z. I love that.
That was like a response, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
We're here.
I saw the side part, girl. Awesome.
Good.
So cool to kind of see you guys engage with the poll and get an idea who's with us today. But now let's take a look at our roadmap for this session, basically the next 30 minutes or so, what we will do. So in the first part of the presentation, we will be busting 3 myths together. Let's take a look at what those myths are. The first one is millennials are pain in the system. The second one is mental health is for the weak. And I promise there is a myth 3, but I would like to keep you guys on your toes, kind of keep the suspense going, so I will not be revealing it just yet. And on the second half of the session, we will look into the way forward. And the way forward in terms of what the future holds for mental health in the workplaces, and what role you guys can all play in that future, and how we can collaborate together and join forces. But before we do all that, I think it's only fair that that we tell you a bit more about us. And with that, I leave the stage to Subhi to tell all of you his story with mental health and how it led to the conception of MMW.
Thanks, Özge. All right, let's see how that works. So my story with mental health started in September 2019. I was increasingly feeling lonely, connected on the outside with family, friends, and social media, but often feeling isolated and lonely on the inside. But then I was like, come on, dude, just give it some time. Maybe it's just a period and will take care of itself. But it didn't. So I started looking for relevant mental health tools to help me address my loneliness. But I couldn't find anything that was relevant and accessible. What was really interesting also to share is when I started telling the people around me about my loneliness, is the response. The most common answer I will get will be something like, oh wow, dude, I didn't think someone as outgoing as you are with your active lifestyle will be dealing with loneliness. And I think they were referring to my social media presence with like active lifestyle. And honestly, I understand where they're coming from. Because we, as a society, we seem to have a predetermined perception to who qualify to be feeling lonely, anxious, depressed, or stressed. The reality is this is just another myth. Of course, as a classic millennial, I took on social media to share with my community, to see if my community shares with me and resonate with my mental health challenge. So I wrote, I'm looking for people who are interested and passionate about mental health and its ramification on our daily decision-making process, and the mental traps that young people fall into due to increasingly connected world. I'm looking to assemble a team of 5 people to come together and discuss how can we make a difference and increase awareness about the importance of mental health. This is how MMW was founded and established, which also shadows our generation attitude towards challenges. Because when we are challenged, we speak up, we reach out, and we take actions to solve our own problems. So this is how it all came together. And 2 months ago, MMW celebrated its first year anniversary. So allow me to just quickly share with you how our mission has evolved and what are our plans to achieve our mission. So MMW is for Impact Startup, with our mission to bring mental well-being tools and services to workplaces. Our goal is to ensure that all of us have access to relevant mental health tools all the time. The reasons we focus on workplaces are three. One, because 1/3 of our lifetime we spend at work. The second is because work on its own is a main contributor to our mental well-being, either positive or negative. And third, by 2025, 75% of the workforce will be formed of millennials. So for a startup like ours with our purpose, if we can ensure that relevant mental well-being tools are being provided to young employees at least 8 hours a day, that's a great starting point. MMW was founded by millennials for millennials. It's a mantra that we at MMW take pride in, because it's our human-to-human acknowledgement that our mental health is on the line unless we step in and do something about it, especially with this fast-paced new normal we live in. So Özge, are you up to share your own mental story,
Yes.
your mental health story with the audience, and how does that connect to our mantra on by millennials for millennials?
Yes, absolutely. And I think I'm a pretty good example of that mantra. So when Subhi reached out to me in the early 2020, I had recently found my voice when it comes to being vocal about my mental health struggles and experiences. 2019 was a tough year for me mentally. And to add fuel to the fire, I was on the dark side of social media, comparing myself and my career to the others. And what made my struggles even worse was that I wasn't being open about them, holding it close to the chest. So I remember one day being at work, feeling super unproductive and upset and tired, emotionally and mentally. All I wanted to do was to go home and rest, but I just didn't know what to give as an excuse. I mean, there were two options in front of me. I could have lied, probably faked a physical symptom like a headache or an upset stomach, or I could have told the truth. And even in that moment, even though it was very scary to do so, I did the latter. And the kindness and support I've been shown as a response opened up a whole new chapter for me. It was the beginning of my mental health advocacy, which only got so much more passionate by me joining MMW. And as a result, or maybe I should say, as a reward, I found myself a community of like-minded volunteers. And today, we have 22 volunteers from all over the world. From India to Nigeria to Iran to Japan to Peru and a bunch of other countries in Europe, further proving the point that what we try to achieve at MMW resonates with millennials on a global scale. Here we go.
And with all these amazing volunteers, we at MMW were amazed by the traction we received from the market, from a diverse set of entities in the institution spectrum. And to us, that demonstrated for us the real need to speak about mental health and address it. So for example, we have a partnership with the Danish international software company called Milestone, where we run 3 mental well-being workshops to their younger employees. We also worked with the World Economic Forum, represented by their global shapers in the Copenhagen hub. And we also collaborated with one of the universities in Italy, represented by Trieste University, for their MBA class. Where all of it came together to us is when we realized the number of young people that we were able to reach and connect to only throughout last year. 13,600 young people we were able to reach through our workshops, survey, and online presence. To us, this made us realize that after all, we weren't only telling our own personal stories, we're also telling a story of a generation. So now that you guys have stayed course and got to know a little bit about who we are and what do we do and who have we been working with, I think it's only fair to get back to the myth busting with Özge to tell us about why millennials are a pain in the system.
It's system.
It's the system.
We keep it clean
in here.
We keep it clean. So yeah, the first myth: millennials are a pain in the system, or I mean, are they? Let's take a look at it. So I'm pretty sure we all see these like ridiculous titles and headlines about millennials on the media, right? So I'm just going to share a couple of them because I find them interesting. My favorite in the context of TechBBQ also, it reads, millennials, you can't afford a startup, time to get a job. Business is bad, blame the millennials, classic. Oh, the misery of mentoring millennials. And my second favorite is a sage, good old advice. Show a little pride, millennials.
I got that.
I mean, at this point, we've been criticized from ending industries to our weird life choices, that it's kind of became this thing to put the system, to put the blame on us. And we are the true villains, it seems like. And I think this kind of narrative reached a point that when you put millennials on Google, it automatically completes the search as millennials are lazy, stupid, and the worst. And I'm so glad you find this funny, because we're all laughing now, because these headlines are not like nothing more than preposterous clickbait. But there are also titles like these that hit a bit too close to home for millennials. How millennials became the Burnout Generation. Millennials are actually workaholics. The problem with millennials is they are way too hard on themselves. And the age-old question, why are millennials depressed? Which makes you wonder, are we really a generation of entitled, self-righteous, hard to satisfy, hard to manage people? Or is there something more going on? As this last title suggests, could it be possible that we are stuck in a world that was built for an entirely different generation with different values, priorities, and needs? Yeah.
And now we would like to, we're going to call it poll time.
It's another poll time.
Yes. We would like to hear from you guys. What do you think about this following statement? So now you heard from Ozge?
Yes. And if you can return to your phones, I think it will be easier.
Yes.
And if do not remember the link, it is bit.ly/TechBBQ21.
Oh yeah, that's for the newcomers.
Newcomers.
I don't know how you did that.
I love it. Okay. Millennials are too hard on themselves, 50%. All right. Workaholics. Have it too easy. All right. None of them. Oh, okay, cool. The Burnout Generation. Okay. All right.
When we were practicing, we had to do this, like, oh, these are the results, and now they're live, actually.
It's really cool.
So that's actually cool.
Yeah, but we're also practicing scaled better, but, that's fine. All right.
Little biased.
All right, apparently we are too hard on ourselves. Okay, for ourselves. All right.
We will thank you for engaging.
Thank you.
So reality is not as black or white as we think. And today, and at MMW, what we would like you guys to take away from this is to understand the underlying logic and factors that shaped our generation and also shaped our perception of our generation by maybe previous generation. So would you take us through these factors?
Yes, absolutely. So the number one factor that sets millennials apart from different generations is our affinity with technology. We are the first generation that grew up with the internet, the social media, and consumer electronics like smartphones and laptops. So this whole new reality at MMW we refer to as the connected world. So now I would like to explore a bit more what are the effects of connected world on millennials. With connected world came the instant access to information. Basically, this made millennials self-starters that value new opportunities and adventures. The flip side of the instant access to information is that we could never really fully turn that information stream off. That leaves our brains always overstimulated and reduces our attention span to average somewhere around 8 seconds.
Yes. So I hope you guys are still with
are
us.
You still with
8
us?
Seconds. We passed
them. It's been longer than that.
Awesome.
But so yeah. And then of course the second leg of that is we are so used to getting immediate feedback at all times. That's why we also value mentorship and encouragement and kind of expect the same kind of feedback loop from our managers. The drawback of this is that we get addicted to instant gratification. That leaves us feeling never fully satisfied and renders us incapable of dealing with everyday discomforts like boredom, loneliness, frustration, and so forth. Now, my question to you guys right now is just think about it. When was the last time you truly allowed yourself to be bored? Do you remember?
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't. So we always want to.
Yeah.
We use the device, right? Because we're not okay with being bored.
I use TikTok.
We use TikTok.
Thank you for laughing. Yes, we do. And last but not least, of course, connected world leads to the globalization being at our fingertips at all times. That's why millennials have put so much more value into global issues like climate change, gender and race-based discrimination, and so forth. And of course, with globalization being this accessible to us, comes the peer pressure and self-comparison at a catastrophic scale. And as I shared in my own personal story, that has a huge impact on our mental health. Makes us feel so much more isolated, lonely, and low self-esteem, and fear of missing out, as we all heard. And everything that we've been discussing so far has only been accelerated and amplified with the post-COVID-19 world that we are living in, which is not a wonder to me that our generation is coined with the term the Burnout Generation. So the statistics backs us up, saying that millennials are 130% more prone to experience burnout than any other generation. In the same lane of thinking, I also found this BuzzFeed News article that I would like to share with you, which is headlined, "How Millennials Became the Burnout Generation." And there is a very eye-opening, and for me, it's very sobering as well, quote, referring to the burnout in that article. It reads, "It's not a temporary affliction, it's the millennial condition. It's our base temperature, it's our background music, it's the way things are, it's our lives." And now I understand that this might be a huge reality to kind of open up to. But on the flip side of this harsh reality for millennials, there's another term that our generation is synonymous with, and that is the therapy generation. The Wall Street Journal article headlines, "Millennials are the therapy generation. People in their 20s and 30s seek mental health help more often. They are changing the nature of treatment." This proves us that millennials are the right generation to lead the mental health conversation forward. We see, as Subhi also said in his story, we seek solutions to our own problems. We shake the status quo, and we challenge the traditional thinking. That makes us fit for purpose to lead this kind of a change. Well, that's why we believe millennials are not a pain in the system. We are basically considered as one because we are trying to redefine the system that's no longer working for us. And I think our next myth is a great example of how millennials are challenging these historical narratives. Oh, here we go.
And it is mental health is for the weak. But before we deep dive into it, maybe you guys know by now, it is
pull time.
It's pull time.
Oh, I sung, sorry.
Yeah. Pull time that looks...
well, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Let's see.
You guys should be able to see it in your screens.
You do your thing and we see if it comes on screen.
Yes, but maybe you can narrate the question a little bit.
Yeah, so thank you. So do you believe our society perceive people with mental health condition as weak? And here think in society as your closer circle of friends, families and colleagues. If they view someone with maybe stress or anxiety or depressed, would they perceive that person as weak or not?
Yeah, there's a predominant yeses going on at the moment. I mean, yes, 87% think
that it's a yes.
Yes. Interesting.
Yes, we're not surprised to say the least.
No.
The way we would like to look into this myth is by starting by asking the question why. Why is this association between mental health and weakness? Where does it come from? It is a historical narrative that we as a generation inherited from our predecessors. What adds to it is the nature of mental health, which is intangible, personal, and difficult to measure. And all of this together brings the difficulty about communicating about our mental health, especially because of lack of established language. So mental health is a taboo topic, right? Which means we don't speak about it. When you don't speak about something, it's also harder for you to find the articulation and vocabulary when you want to do it, because you simply don't have people around you speaking about it. All of this together brings a feeling of shame and hiding, which impacts our willingness to speak about our mental health challenges. So this vicious circle is what makes mental health a taboo topic. And the only way to break the taboo is by breaking this myth and getting to know the truth about mental health. So what is the truth about mental health? Let's take it from the most credible source when it comes to mental health, which is the World Health Organization. This is how they define mental health, so let's read that together. Mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. As we can see, the definition does not possess or imply any moral association to it. Mental health is neither strong or weak, is neither good or bad. Simply put, mental health is a state of well-being. It's part of our physiology, which means we all have mental health. So this fact, this credit that mental health is for the weak, mental health is for all of us, because we all have mental health, meaning anywhere and everywhere you go, no matter where you go, you will have your mental health with you, even if you go to work.
Yes.
Is this the right segue into our third myth that we haven't shared yet?
Yeah, we're almost there. I mean, it's a good lead up. Thank you. Thanks for the effort.
From there.
Yes. But before we kind of reveal the third myth, again, I would like to kind of hold the pulse from the audience. And this time, it's an easier question, as you guys can see in your screens. It's the concept of work-life balance, and whether it's a relevant one or an outdated concept. I would like to kind of hear your thoughts about it.
So when we say work-life balance, what comes to your mind? Is this a relevant concept, or is this an outdated concept? Okay. Sorry, you can't see it?
I think it's the relevant. Yes, thank you very much.
Is that the relevant one?
Yeah, that's the relevant.
Cool, nice.
Yes, 92%. Okay, all right. Do you agree?
What do you think?
What do you think?
We say we wouldn't.
There are no right or wrong answers.
That's a tricky one. I was like, I think there is a right and wrong answer.
Okay, all right. Let's see. All right, 88% think it's a...
From our perspective, there is a right or wrong answer. So I don't get told on that one.
I think they get it. Good. I think they're a smart crowd. They understand. Okay. Cool. Well, I think it's only fair, now that we've been teasing and... teasing each other too. Thank you very much. I think it's only fair that you hear, if we could answer this question, what we would say. And our answer would look something like this. Work-life balance is bullshit. And excuse my French, first and foremost. We promise we will keep it clean, but anyways. And I understand that this might be a controversial stance, but hear me out. We have an explanation to it. And simply put, work-life balance did make sense until it didn't. And we believe there are two driving factors that originally made this concept, work-life balance, a valid corporate mantra. Now let's take a look at these factors. So the first one is the generational differences. So when work-life balance as a concept and corporate mantra came about, the majority of the workforce was formed by generations that valued the traditional 9-to-5 work structure. These generations also had a clear separation between their personal and professional lives. And they afford to have this kind of a luxury to separate these lives because of the second driving factor, which is the role of technology. So in the last 5 to 10 years, the role of technology became such a central part of our jobs, which was not the case for those generations. Think about it ourselves. We basically have access to our work phones, work laptops, our mailboxes constantly, and we consider this as a prerequisite to do our jobs and perform it. This wasn't the case for the previous generations. So originally, as a corporate mantra, work-life balance made sense, but the times have been changing now, and we believe these two driving factors have been evolving. So now let's take a look how they've been evolving. Here we go.
So the first dimension that is evolving, and that's why work-life balance is an outdated concept, is because of the generational differences. The upcoming quote is a quote that our millennials, our community of millennials in the past year have been telling us over and over. This is how they put it. I can also subscribe to that as a millennial myself. We would say it's not my job, it's my life. Because for us as millennials, our lives does not start after 5 p.m. Our jobs are a big part of who we are and our identity. And that's why we are also millennials perceived to be pain in the traditional system and a challenge to attract, recruit, and retain. Because we will only work for companies that resonate with our values and principles. And if we were forced to work for a company that doesn't, we will be leaving in the next 2 years. This is also explains why millennials demand more than just professional growth. They also want personal development. Because again, we view these two entities, life and work, as one entity. This also further supports the trend cited by Tom Seymour, the CEO of PwC. He says, Attracting and keeping younger talent is one of companies' biggest challenges. And as a result, companies where millennials are not taken care of will suffer in terms of productivity, innovation, and profitability. The second dimension that is changing and making work-life balance an outdated mantra is the role of technology. What's going to come up is another quote from our community of millennials, and this is how they put it regarding the role of technology. My boss's email is 2 clicks away from me all the time. If we reflect on this ourselves in the past 2 years, how many times did we feel these words, this new added additional stress and pressure that was not there for previous generation because simply technology wasn't there? So this new added stress impact our mental health. So nowadays, even if we really, really want to separate our work and life, and sometimes we really, really want to, we can't because we're always online and always connected. And this is what also what Deloitte refers to with always on workplace culture. We're simply always on. And how is that being amplified? It is because of our generational characteristic. As Ozgi mentioned in the beginning, we are the generation that the first generation to grow up with technology, which means we rely on technology for all of our daily decisions, which again makes life and work so intertwined and so difficult to separate.
Yes. Yes, the new ways of working. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure Subhi has been doing such a good job trying to kind of give you guys the reasoning. And if we didn't, do that much of a good job convincing you that our personal and professional lives cannot be separable, let's think about what we've all been through in the last year collectively. The ways of working took a major shift, and we all started working from home, and that became our new normal. And it seems like this flexible and remote working is here to stay now that companies are closing their physical office spaces or downsizing it, and at the very best, they're kind of finding a midway solution in a hybrid work structure. All of these new developments renders work-life balance an outdated concept. And the statistics like these further supports this point. So 85% of people say their mental health issues at work negatively affect their home life. This shows us that our work has a impact and greater impact on our lives as a whole and on our mental health, which cannot be overlooked. And going forward, we need to find new ways to address this new need of a life balance. And I think you'll tell us how.
Yes. So if we can conclude on this third myth, we would say that work-life balance is an outdated concept and it is a vulnerable one. And what we need going forward is something we're calling it life balance. And to be able to reach and achieve that life balance, the way forward must be different. So what is the way forward, right? So now I think we delivered on the first part with the myth busting. Now we are going to move into the way forward. So let's see. So what is the way forward? To us at MMW, we believe that the way forward is employee mental well-being. And we believe that every workplace and every employer must prioritize and focus on their employees' mental well-being. Now, we need to bring some sense-making into it, why they should do that, right? And usually, in their famous words would be something like, what's in it for me, asks every employer, right? Why should I invest in my employee mental well-being? Usually, the driving decision factor is economical one. So let's start from there. Research demonstrates there is a strong return on investment for every employer who invests in their employee mental well-being. For every $1 invested on mental health, there is a return of $5, up by 25% already from 2017. The reason why, because there is a direct correlation between mental well-being and decision-making process. So if you're wondering, so Karaf, let's make it more simple. If we reflect on that ourselves, when we are doing better, mentally better, we will process things faster, we will collaborate and team in a better way, which will mean we'll produce better output. And all of that together will translate into a stronger bottom line. Now, if you stay with me with the same line of thinking, let's move into something called business strategy.
Ask you a question about the numbers.
Yes, could we take the question after? Thank you. We will come back to it. Thank you. If we go to the business strategy, if you are familiar with that, companies usually have two classic approaches. It's either differentiation or cost leadership. Now you're probably thinking, how is that related to investing in mental health and young employees? Well, let me explain to you. Differentiation, so companies who invest in their employee mental well-being can utilize this investment as a differentiator to attract younger employees who we have already demonstrated they value mental well-being. In our own latest MMW survey with millennials, this was the statistic. 72% of millennials stating that workplace mental health is profoundly important to them. So if your company falls into the latter, into cost leadership, so they do everything to reduce costs, this is kind of what's most important for them. They can utilize their investment in employee mental well-being as a preventative mechanism to reduce potential burnout and stress leave costs. Those are inevitable, so they're going to happen. So the only way to reduce those costs is by investing in your employee mental well-being, so they are not burn out and they don't go on a stress leave. So no matter which approach you will go with, the way forward is employee mental well-being. So Özge, I think we just made the case for maybe the economical, at least why it makes sense for an employer to invest in their employee mental well-being. Are we stopping there, or is there an equal important factor you would like to highlight?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. As Subhi very nicely segued into my section, we believe there is another reason, equally important, another reason why employers should invest in their employees' mental well-being, and that's simply because it's their moral responsibility to do so. So in the beginning of this presentation, we stated that we spent 1/3 of our lives working. That means 90,000 of our lifetime spent at our jobs working. For millennials, this means 90,000 hours of emotional commitment and connection to their employers. To us, it goes more than just a mental labor, but it's also an emotional one. And this, coupled with the fact that the increased workplace stress and anxiety in this post-COVID world that we are living in, it's only ethical and fair for employers to invest back and return the emotional and mental labor that their employers have been putting into it and invest in their employee mental well-being. Here we go. Before we change, I think you have something to say.
Yes. So now I think we wrapped up the why they should do it. So now we introduced the way forward. What is the way forward is employee mental well-being. The why we provided the economical and moral. And now we would like to get into the how should workplaces bring mental health into the workplace. We believe in an approach called the holistic approach. If workplaces are serious about bringing mental health into the workplace, which is a topic that is a taboo, then they need to ensure that all the relevant stakeholders are being part of the journey of bringing mental health into the workplace. So these relevant stakeholders, C-suite, hiring managers, middle management, and of course, most importantly, the rest of the employees. Now, how can they go about the holistic approach? We have an implementation strategy. We call it embrace by differentiating. What do we mean by that? We mean that there is no one size fits all. Different stakeholders require different mental health tools and services. Let's get specific on this. The first step that an employer can bring a mental health into their workplace is through step one, where basically to try to break the stigma on mental health by increasing awareness. It could be as simple as having a mental health day. If you are in Denmark, in October 14, it's the National Mental Health Day. So your workplace can start there. If the workplace would like to scale up, they can also provide mental well-being workshops to their employees. One important factor to talk about this step, while it is a great starting point, it is not effective in the long run because mental health cannot be addressed in a one day, one session, one training. But we will get back to that on the next steps. The second step is, I think, the responsibility of employers towards their hiring managers and middle management. These are the leaders of millennials and Generation Z. We know some of them in the audience. Some of them are millennials themselves, and some of them are leading millennials as well. And we need to educate, equip, and train those. And we can do that by providing them with mental health training and access to mental health toolbox. Here we need to provide them with the do's and don'ts on the conversation level on such a delicate topic with their employees. It's also the responsibility of the employer to ensure to equip these leaders with the right competencies to identify early symptoms on mental health to guide the employees who are struggling. And the third and the last step, it's the most important, we believe, at MMW. And there are two key words here, accessibility and relevance. So the third step is sustainable mental health solution with daily accessibility. The reason why is because mental health is not static, it's dynamic. It means it needs a daily reinforcement. We need a daily healthy dose of our mental health practices on a daily basis. And for employees to be able to do that, we need to ensure that they have accessibility to the right tools, because we are different. So the tools needs to be provided must be relevant to these different stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now that we have wrapped it up, I think we should get into the main question of this keynote.
Yes.
And maybe you have the answer to who's responsible. Is it workplace only, or is it millennials?
Yes.
What would you say about that?
Yes. Well, I think you've been doing a great job kind of highlighting why employers should step up and show the responsibility, in the sense that, first of all, creating a work culture that favors and encourages mental health, and provide tools and services to their employees. But we simply don't think that responsibility ends there, because as millennials and as any other individual and generations, we have our own responsibility to step up and take care of our own mental well-being. And now I would like to share 3 next steps that you might take to kind of implement and take up to the step and the challenge to take care of your own mental well-being. So the first step is the awareness, and that's something that we've been trying to do so far, right? That's basically telling you guys, making you aware that it's that's your employer's equal responsibility to take care of your mental well-being. The next steps that you can take in this area is you can reach out to your team leads, your HR teams, and simply ask about their plans when it comes to employee mental well-being. The second angle is the intention part. This is you acknowledging your personal responsibility to take care of your own mental well-being, and utilizing the tools and services that are available to you, and finding ways that personally works for you to take care of your own mental health. And last but not least, and probably the most important, start in the conversation. I highly encourage you to use your voice, share your experiences, and lean into your community. You can bring one thing that you learned from the session to a meet. Wait, let's try that one more time. To a team meeting next week.
Thank you.
And start the conversation there. The more you talk, the more you encourage others to do the same. You'll create them a safe space to come forward with their own experiences. And one thing I would like to share here to kind of wrap this slide up is that change doesn't have to be something big that you do, that you upend your entire life and do a 180. The small steps can also lead to big results. Here you go.
Thank you. All right, so if we can also be part of your journey to address your mental health, this is how we believe we can join forces on this. So the first thing is that we have these start the conversation. So if you enjoyed what you heard today here, you're welcome to reach out to us to bring what we just did here to your workplace, to your team, or to your event, to talk about the importance of mental health with them. And if you feel you're ready to scale up, we also have stress management, anxiety mitigation, and emotional balance through positive psychology intervention, mental well-being workshop that have been curated and developed with the team of psychologists at MMW. We're also, if you are a hiring manager or if you are leading millennials and you would like to join us, we're testing a mental health tool and we're collaborating with different managers. So if you'd like to reach out to us because you're curious, you're welcome to do that. And last but not least, you're also welcome to check our MMW blogs and social media. We provide a monthly blog on tips and tricks for mental health techniques that you guys can apply to your daily life. And you can do all of this reaching out to us through our website, or you have our also email there, or you can just give us a call. With that being said, this is thank you for being here with us.
Such a great audience.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think we still have some time. No? Yes?
We have
5 minutes.
We have 5 minutes.
And if you have any questions, and I remember you having one,
yes,
feel free.
Just a short question.
Yeah.
Would
you like me to go back to the slide?
Oh.
1, 2, 3.
No.
Just a short question regarding the numbers. Maybe I just missed out. Could you tell a little bit about the background from the numbers where you got this?
Yes.
Because it's always like.
Of course, it's always easy to bring them. It's true. We've been doing a lot of research for this specifically keynote, but also generally in the organization. And this specific one is done from Deloitte. It's from 2021 that they did it in their workplace of their employees' mental well-being workplace. They do that survey every year. And that's why the numbers, they did it in 2017, 2018, and then between the 17 and the 2021, there was an up 25%. Yes. And of course, if you like to reach out to us, I can also share with you the exact report.
It's in Denmark, Deloitte in Denmark, right?
Yeah, no, it's Deloitte Europe, actually.
Deloitte Europe.
Yes. Yeah. Yes? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I think for the live stream, it is.
So first of all, super interesting lecture. My question is that I used to work for a company, a big company with thousands of employees, but I know you don't like the phrase work-life balance, but there is no work-life balance, and there was a feeling that we constantly numbers, and a lot of my colleagues went on mental sick leave, and they still do. And for example, when I try to talk to HR and try to raise something, they honestly didn't care. We felt that like if we fell apart, somebody else will come. Yeah. What can we do with companies, even big companies, that talking, of course, it's really nice to wave with the mental health balance and stuff, but it doesn't happen in real life. Mm-hmm. What would you advise to do?
That's a great question.
Yeah. I would say that speaking and words matter, and we need to start by increasing awareness. And the more that there are people speaking about how the new generation would be choosing elsewhere than going to these places where they are not treating us well. So I think change does not happen over a night. Mm-mm. But we do, when we're looking at the research and looking at the space of mental health, we can see that it's inevitable that all HR will look into mental well-being. I think it's a research that you found that we couldn't put in, where there was like 75% of HR now placing mental health as the first thing on their agenda when it comes to HR strategy. Yeah. Of course, I can understand that there will always maybe be companies that wouldn't want to do it. My bet is on us, our generation, that we choose better. And we know if we go work for somewhere that they do not value our mental well-being, we will leave because it's not worth being there. Yeah. And if enough of us do that, these companies will be forced to listen because in the end, the fight is on the talent.
And one thing I would like to add there is, sorry. And of course, and I think that's very empowering. And I also understand that there might be certain circumstances in life that you cannot just up and leave your job. And for me, that's something that what I tried is, I basically started talking about my own struggles, and it was uncomfortable, but I started actually connecting with other people. And another colleague of mine, she has actually done the same thing, that we collaborated on several events with her on MMW, that she basically simply raised her hand and said that I'm burnt out. Like I had up to here, I cannot do it anymore. And I understand that that's not a program, that's not a sustainable thing, but mental health have the impact to be grassroots movement. And that's very encouraging. And for me, my personal experience, it worked wonders for me to actually find a community and lean into it. It's a great start to feel that you're not lonely in this. And when you start doing that, I have this knowledge, and I mean, employers have this tendency to actually start paying attention to it. That could be one thing. And I understand that it's not comfortable, but I'm also very sure that you guys are not, alone in this at all. Yes. I think.
Hi, thank you. Gen X representing here.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so I want to be there. I want to be there for you. I want to be there for, the millennials, my colleagues. I want to be there for my kids, right? What can I do? What's the best way for me to support and nurture and create an environment that actually helps you all flourish? What can I do?
That's a great, amazing question. May I ask if you are leading a team, or what is your kind of work structure at the moment?
I'm not leading it.
No. I mean, I think it's probably at this point quite repetitive, but sessions like these, I feel, and create a great momentum, especially in workplaces. And I think it creates a ripple effect too, because we were kind of privileged enough to do similar sessions, and the feedback that we get at the end of it is it's very eye-opening. So we all, as I said, it's just not kind of that you need to upend your entire life, but you can start small, and starting conversation is a great place. Asking questions. I mean, I think we are kind of cornered as a newer generations to be demanding more, but there's nothing wrong to tap your, HR managers and be like, any plans after, especially after COVID, anything in place going on? Yes.
I could just share with you something personal to me. I mean, we don't have the answers to a lot of the questions. It's simply what we want. We're here to do is to raise awareness, because awareness is the biggest thing that you could do. To us, at least at MMW, what I would love to see, what I don't like to see, is anyone going through mental health challenge alone.
Yes.
And speaking about it, and just having someone just telling you that, I also felt lonely. This does wonders to someone. Yeah. And it's as simple as that sometimes. So if you have, you talked about your kids, maybe if you have your kids in a certain age, just speaking about them, talking about them, talking about mental health, and also just letting them know that you're there, and you would, you understand that it's different than your time. That's so important, just the acceptance that is different. For us, our vision is to create a world where millennial mental well-being is valued, promoted, and encouraged, which is a lot of good words. But what we're trying to say, then we landed on this mission because we needed an effective channel to reach the biggest number of people, because then you can start a movement. And that's why workplace, because 75% of the workforce will be millennials. So we're like, if we want to reach the biggest number, we need to find an effective channel. So what I'm trying to say is maybe, or you can start small by people around you, or you can try to think about where is the most dense amount of people that I would like, that I think this message is relevant to them, which is, we believe the younger generation is. Also the other generations, but we're here to represent our younger generation. So just being there, speaking about it, and then, inviting people like us, and there's plenty of other people maybe more equipped to do it. That's how we can start doing something about this and actually creating a proper movement. Yeah.
Yes, I think you had a question. Yes.
So thank you very much for the very meaningful session today. And my question is in the very last slide, you mentioned about there's some kind of service or tools that can help to manage mental health. So can you give some example about that? Because I think most of the time we are millionaires, we are very lonely in the journeys of being anxiety and stressful about at work. So I would really want to hear the tools and the service that you provide.
Yes. Take it away, Subhi.
Thank you. I will. So I think there are multiple, we're working on different things. The concrete things that we're working on is starting by the awareness on having these sessions. And then the past year, we have been running different surveys to try to then take the input from what people are struggling with, and then try to create something that can help them. Tools could be something from a software, from an app, to if you're talking about for a manager, for example, then you need to provide them with the right tools to educate them on mental health. Because it's such a taboo topic, we don't know it, and we have a lot of misconception as we try to demonstrate today. So it is just a lot of education, because if you don't educate, you don't know how to behave differently, right? So it's these things that we're doing, and we are doing also workshops on mental health. So we go to workplaces or different events, and we talk about stress management. So how can you identify your stress? How can you tackle it? And then how can you take actions to already improve your stress? And now we're doing one on anxiety and one on the connected world, like the fact that all of our devices are always on. This didn't come up with terms and conditions and how to use these devices, right? We're just up there. It was okay, deal with it, Before, in smoking and drinking, there was always regulation. But it's so difficult to regulate us because it's just in our pocket, right? Yeah. So we're trying to do another workshop. It's going to be ready in December. In providing, using positive psychology to help us take the right techniques to stay emotionally balanced.
Yeah.
So again, there is no one answer, and it's a hard work. Yeah. You need to do it every day. It's like when we have a diet, right? We work out and we eat better every day. I think we have this collective misconception that our mental health is a one-day job. If we do it today, if I attended this session like you did, and thank you for doing that,
Yes.
I have done my job. No, you guys haven't. It's a good start, but if you want to improve your mental health, you need to do this every day, and you need to find your own ways. We're trying to, have blogs and different things, but that will never be enough. It's the intention that Ozgi talked about, right? The intent to use it is what will make the difference.
Yes, and guys, if you think that one of these sessions or workshops could be relevant to your own teams or for your events, or please feel free to reach out to us. And on the, we didn't put it in here, and I don't want to tease it too much, but on the personal level, because from as again peer-to-peer angle of what we can do for our millennial and Gen Z peers, is that I'm wrapping up, sorry. And I think just be on the lookout for our blog and social media. We will be launching a bigger program very soon. We just didn't want to put it in here before it actually lands on its legs, that we actually would like to create a larger community around us with more concrete tips and tricks about mental health and how can you move forward. So awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.